He's a decorated serviceman, entered the Navy and became a SEAL. 2 tours in Iraq and Africa. You can only imagine what that has meant to him, to his fellow SEALs, to his family. And he has since parlayed that life experience into a very successful career as an entrepreneur. And also, when people are fortunate enough to have him, speaks about his life's experiences and speaks about the things that we have to do for a living. I want to thank Tom Whaley for bringing this guy to NetApp and spending so much time just making sure that Brent had an opportunity to understand us. And he has organized and prepared a discussion with us today that I think is going to be a very poignant part of completing this whole week. Yesterday we were blessed to have another Navy SEAL, Jim Smith, with us. I've gotten to know Brent in these past few weeks, and as we all know, we are to give any serviceman or woman our respect. When they're in the Special Forces, we need to give them respect and admiration that they don't want. And when they give of themselves that way, when they're young, enormously talented, let me go to Wall Street, just make a couple million, and they decide, no, what I need to do is go serve my country. We are incredibly honored to have this man with us, and I want to hear a great central welcome for Brent Gleeson.
I do realize that most of you are hungover and tired and have a long night ahead of you, so I'll try and keep this relatively brief. But just one more time before we start, I want to give my thanks and recognition to the winners in this room for your sacrifice, for your dedication. Let's give all the winners and the folks who recognize one more round of applause. I also have to first start by demystifying something for you. I know you guys think, oh, Navy SEAL, he's some badass tough guy. Nope. I am not a tough guy. My wife will attest to that. How many of you folks have young daughters in the room? Okay. I just have to start by getting something off my chest. Bit of a confession. My toenails at this very moment are in fact pink. I shit you not. My 2-year-old daughter, Parker Rose, came up to me yesterday. She said, Dada, paint nails. Paint nails. I said, well, sure, I am. So I'll paint your nails. She said, no, your nails. I was like, a little hesitant at first, but then I relented. I sat down. She proceeded to paint my toenails. Did a horrendous job, by the way. Paint all over my feet. A couple hours later, I had forgotten that I had pink toenails. Threw on the flip-flops. Went to the manliest place in the world, Home Depot. Unfortunately, I did not have my daughter with me, so yeah, I got a few very odd looks when I was there. No, but seriously, thank you guys so much for having me. I am honored and humbled to be here with you today. Navy SEALs are known to be the most elite and feared special operations fighting force in the entire world. Also widely known to have a culture based on trust, teamwork, and a shared sense of purpose. I'll tell you an interesting fact. In our history, no SEAL has ever been captured as a prisoner of war. Ever. Why might you ask? Well, if you're a bit of a historian, or perhaps you've seen the Gerard Butler movie 300, you know, the Spartan warriors with the ridiculously ripped bodies, I've convinced myself that's digitally enhanced because it's just too depressing to think otherwise. Or maybe you've read the book Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield, and you'll recall the story of King Leonidas and his brave, elite, 300 Spartan warriors facing annihilation against a 1 million strong Persian army that was invading their lands. And during this vicious battle, an Arcadian captain that had partnered with King Leonidas in his fight against the Persians frantically consults him, basically saying, look, we kind of need to weigh our options here. We are getting our asses kicked. At this point, it is retreat or surrender. King Leonidas immediately and passionately looks at him and says, well, that's an easy decision for us, Arcadian. The Spartans never retreat. The Spartans never surrender. And of course, every single one of them died that day defending their freedoms. I can think of countless gunfights, many of which have resulted in the deaths of my fallen SEAL brothers. And the instances where it became that last man standing type of situation, later teams were sent in to recover the bodies and of course hunt down the enemy. A common theme always occurred. The bodies of our fallen brothers would be found surrounded by their own rifle and pistol magazines. Every single rifle magazine completely empty. Every single pistol magazine empty. No grenades left in their chest harnesses, because these brave warriors, despite being mortally wounded and completely outnumbered, would keep fighting and fighting until they had nothing left to give, until they were literally down to throwing rocks. Each and every man on the team knowing and trusting that not one team member would ever stop fighting, win or lose, until that fight was done. And that level of trust and persistence reminds me of a quote by Martin Luther King Jr. that says, if you can't fly, you run, and if you can't run, you walk, and if you can't walk, you crawl, but no matter what, you keep moving forward. In the SEAL teams, we have a creed that embodies our culture and our values. And a similar line from that creed says, I will not quit. I persevere and thrive in adversity. And if knocked down, I will get back up every time. I am never out of the fight. And that, my friends, is the true essence of being what we call all in, all the time. The best job in the world. No, in all seriousness, by saying that and with showing you that video and with some of the content that I'll cover today, I first want you to know that I am in no way, by any means, glorifying war. War is messy, it's violent, it's filled with fear and self-doubt. But what I'm doing is laying the foundation for how the most elite teams in the world train to fight and fight to win. Now, groups of driven individuals can come together as a team to achieve the seemingly impossible. Being all in, all the time, is a philosophy that we have in the SEAL teams. But simply put, it's about persistence, never giving up, and giving everything we do, everything we've got, and nothing less, just like King Leonidas and his brave Spartan warriors. What does that really mean, to be all in? Is that even realistic? Is it responsible of us as members or leaders of teams to pour ourselves wholly and completely into every single project or activity we can possibly get our hands on? I believe, of course, that if we're investing our time wisely in the right activities that are aligned with the right priorities, that are in line with meeting the goals of our teams, then yes, of course, it is our duty and responsibility to be all in. Well, in December of 1999, I made my decision to be all in. And yes, of course, in a fit of youthful indiscretion, I quit my corporate finance job and joined the United States Navy. A decision that would forever change my life and set me on the path that I'm on today. So this afternoon, I would like to share a little bit of that journey with you, share some stories from the battlefield, but more importantly, talk about leadership at all levels, teamwork, persistence, adaptation, and how elite teams leverage trust, teamwork, and accountability to achieve higher levels of performance. And hopefully give you guys some takeaways, maybe even a bit of inspiration that you can apply to your own lives, both personally and professionally. So let's dive in. I grew up in the great nation of Texas. Yeah! Dallas, to be specific. I was a swimmer in high school at Jesuit College Prep. Do we have a Jesuit guy in here? This gentleman. That's a lot of enthusiasm. Nice to meet you. Played rugby at Southern Methodist University, and then I graduated with degrees in finance and economics. And upon graduation, I took a job as a financial analyst. And after a year as a financial analyst, made the decision to leave that firm, joined the Navy, and after a few months of basic training, I was on a plane headed to sunny San Diego, California, where I would begin my journey to becoming a SEAL. And I can tell you with exact certainty and clarity that I have never been more nervous in my entire life than the day I stepped foot into the lobby of the Naval Special Warfare Training Center. Because it is a very scary and depressing thing, my friends, knowing for a fact, that your life is going to be pure hell for many, many months to come. But of course, at this point, there was no turning back. I had to be all in. I'll tell you another interesting fact. It takes 18 months and costs over $1 million, yes, $1 million of our hard-earned income, taxpayer dollars, to train and create just one Navy SEAL. And that doesn't count the millions of dollars spent on you once you make it to a team. That 18 months is broken down into various segments. The first segment is 6 months long and called BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL. If any of you have seen the movie Lone Survivor, it's a true story. The opening scenes are actually from the Discovery Channel documentary about BUDS Class 234. I was in Class 235, I was there for all this filming, and this will give us just a teeny tiny taste of what BUDS is all about.
6 times 3. Hurry up. 18. Oh!
Ring the bell 3 times, put your helmet on the ground, you're done.
You don't make it! You do it again! You've tested this hard ever in your life? Never. Winning here is a conscious decision. Make up your mind whether you want to pass or choose to fail.
Alright, now, gentlemen, I'm going to introduce y'all to something called not being able to breathe.
Andrew, come back! Come back to the light. Take all this shaking and all this cold, harness it, turn it into aggression. You just prove to your bodies, through your mind, that you push yourself further than you thought possible.
Doesn't that look fun? Anybody get cold while they watch that? What you just saw was the first 3 weeks of Buzz. Imagine that kind of thing going on for months, and then the irony is the training just gets harder after that. And we heard some common themes coming from the instructors in those video clips. Winning here is a conscious decision. Make up your mind whether you want to pass or choose to fail. Keep moving no matter what. Find an excuse to win. You can push yourself further than your mind or body ever thought possible. Now I can assure you, anything you see on TV or in the movies really does not do a shred of justice to the torturous misery that is this portion of SEAL training. I've never been more depressed in my entire life. I've also never laughed more in my entire life. Because although being physically fit is imperative, it's really about having the mental fortitude, the positive mental attitude, to accept nothing less than success from yourself, to never let the thought of quitting into your mind, and frankly, to laugh when you would much, much rather be crying. That's the difference between succeeding and failing in Buzz. Now very clearly, as I know this for a fact, I'm looking at a room full of successful, driven individuals who make up an elite team with great leaders, right? Yes? Well, then I think, yes sir. Well, I think we can all agree that driven individuals, part of elite teams, great leaders, are relentless goal setters and goal achievers. That's all Buzz is. It's a series of goals and milestones. They start off simple but challenging and become more challenging and more complex the further you go through training. Success in Buzz is not about focusing on graduation. It's about getting up every day, 4 o'clock in the morning or earlier, and simply focusing on trying to make it to breakfast, and then passing the morning's evolutions and trying to make it to lunch, and so on and so forth, one evolution at a time, one day at a time. Same thing applies in business and in sales. We can set all the big, long-term, lofty, audacious goals that we want. But those long-term, far-reaching goals don't mean a thing without a series of more near-term, strategic, achievable goals set along the path to the achievement of that ultimate goal. It's like the saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, that's right. We break those big goals into bite-sized chunks, making them less daunting and more achievable. This, for example, is one of the first milestones you have to pass in Buzz. It's called drown proofing. You heard the instructor in the video in his fine Texas drawl. Quick fun fact, about 35–40% of SEALs are from Texas. Can I get it? That is actually true. Remember him saying, all right, gentlemen, now I'm going to introduce y'all to something called not being able to breathe. I always laugh at that part. It's very simple. You tie your ankles together, tie your arms behind your back, toss you in the pool, and for up to about an hour, you are tasked with performing a series of exercises in the exact order they're given to you, all without drowning. See, one simple goal, don't drown. It's designed to do one thing, test to see if you will panic or will you stay calm with clarity of mind, focused on your objectives in a stressful or chaotic environment, underwater, and your lungs feel like they're about to explode and the blackness is creeping in around you. Now keep in mind, this is done in a heated pool in San Diego, California. If you can't stay calm in that environment, how well do you think you're going to do in a gunfight at nighttime in waist-deep snow wearing night vision goggles in the Hindu Kush Mountains of Afghanistan? Probably not too well, right? Now this gentleman on the bottom right down there, I'm not sure what his strategy is, but I don't think he's going to make it too much further through the day. The third week of Buzz, so the third week of this 18-month pipeline, it's called Hell Week. And again, I know you people who've been in fraternities and sororities are like, oh, I know Hell Week. I've been there. Actually, my Hell Week in college is pretty bad. Hell Week. It's designed to do one thing and one thing alone. Weed out those not solely committed to the mission of becoming a Navy SEAL. You do not sleep for an entire week. You're on the equivalent of multiple marathons while wet and sandy, inside and out. You swim dozens and dozens of miles in the open frigid ocean. You run with heavy logs, with heavy boats, with heavy backpacks. You run the obstacle course multiple times a day. Endless calisthenics, brutal beatings, all while battling severe bruising, cuts, lacerations, stress fractures, broken bones. the most severe chafing you could ever imagine. That's right, gentlemen. In all the areas you would never want to be severely chafed. Then think about being in the salt water all the time. So have to buckle your knees. And pretty much constant second stage hypothermia. Another one of the ways I give back to the community is to mentor young men into and through the program. And one of my most recent mentees was assigned to SEAL Team 3, but after Hell Week, my wife and I invited him and some of the other guys over to the house to recover for the Saturday and Sunday they give you to get your body back to normal after your broken bones and severe chasing. And we were talking, and he told me that they now, at the training center, make all the guys wear core body temperature monitors all the way through Hell Week. I'm like, oh, wow. I mean, that's pretty cool. Safety first. No! Had nothing to do with safety. And so the instructors could monitor their core body temperatures to keep them in the water long enough so they could keep them just above second stage hypothermia levels the entire week. You guys can appreciate this comment, but technology is not always our friend, people. Jeez. 1,000 guys applied for my BUDS class. Of that, this picture, by the way, is intentionally grainy to protect certain people's identities. Of that 1,250 were selected to start training. Ultimately, only 23 of us graduated, earning the right to wear the SEAL Trident pin. Now, the interesting thing about this emblem is it's the only emblem in the United States military where the eagle's head is actually fully bowed in memory of those that forged the path ahead of us. Another line from the SEAL Creed says, "My trident is a symbol of honor and heritage, bestowed upon me by the heroes that have gone before. It embodies the trust of those that I am bound to defend. It is a privilege that I must earn every day. Our roles as members or leaders of a team in any environment is a privilege we have to earn every single day, simply by asking ourselves, what am I going to do today to be the best, most valuable, and effective member of this team that I can be?" After 3 combat tours, I left the SEAL teams, went to graduate school, met my business partner, and we started our first company. And when re-entering the business world and becoming an entrepreneur, I quickly realized that all the principles and values that we learned in training, leadership at all levels, teamwork, persistence, adaptation, trust, communication, accountability, all these things apply perfectly to business and civilian life. We've talked about some of these already today. We've been very blessed. We've started 2 successful companies, but we've made a hell of a lot of mistakes along the way and experienced certain failures, and therefore we've learned a lot throughout this journey. Now, earlier I told you we'd be talking a little bit about how high-performance teams in maybe a more corporate setting can leverage trust, teamwork, and accountability to achieve higher levels of performance. So what does it mean to be part of an elite team? And how do elite teams really truly win and achieve success? Well, first and foremost, elite teams are comprised of team members and leaders who know and do what it takes to be successful. They're results focused. They take decisive action. They're emotionally intelligent, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. They know how to motivate and inspire different types of people at different levels and in different ways. They embrace change. There's a lot of that going on around here. They know how to align a team towards the execution of a specific vision. And even more importantly, elite and high-performance teams are comprised of team members who have a clear and concise understanding of the mission and vision of the organization, and they believe in it. They know what's expected of themselves, their peers, and their leaders. They hold themselves accountable at all times. They hold each other accountable. They strive for excellence in all things they do. They have a shared sense of purpose and an unwavering trust and loyalty towards one another. As you can imagine, in combat, when those bullets start flying, politics and all that other bullshit goes right out the window. The time for individual achievement is over, and it becomes one team with one fight. You're no longer fighting for your country. You are fighting simply to protect the brother on your left, the brother on your right, and that's it. You're not fighting because you hate the enemy in front of you. You're fighting because you love and respect the team member standing next to you. Now imagine if we could replicate that type of value system and culture in our own civilian organizations, what an unbreakable bond that would create, what I believe to be a distinct and measurable advantage over the competition. Not always an easy thing to do when lives are on the line, but it is possible. Since authentic and effective leadership at all levels in a high-performance team is critical for its success, let's first take a look at some of the things that make a good leader. Earlier I referenced the book and movie Lone Survivor. I'm sure some of you have seen the movie or read the book. It's based on the true story of 4 Navy SEALs being inserted high in the Hindu Kush mountains of Afghanistan on a reconnaissance mission looking for a known Taliban leader. Unfortunately, soon after their insertion, they were discovered and surrounded by over 100 Taliban fighters from an elevated position. Militarily speaking, the worst possible situation you could ever find yourself in. These 4 men fought bravely for over 5 hours, killing over half that Taliban force. Ultimately, only one survived and was rescued days later. The guy on the left there is Michael Murphy, the team leader on that mission. He was awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions on the mountain that day. He and I went through buds together. He was a good friend and an even better leader. Recognizing that his men would not survive this fight, he made the decision to call for support. And after initially failing to get reception on his satellite phone, he made the decision to take the risk to climb to higher ground in order to make that call. He did so, made the call, and then was shot 4 more times during that call, ultimately sacrificing himself for his team. So what makes a good leader? What types of emotional intelligence is required for effective leaders and team members? Now, emotional intelligence is about recognizing one's own and other people's emotions. It's about discriminating between certain types of feelings and categorizing them appropriately, and using emotional information to guide our thinking and behavior. But what does that have to do with leadership? And what traits are imperative for effective leadership at any level? Self-awareness, our ability to recognize our own thoughts, feelings, goals, drivers, and values, more importantly, their effect on other people. Discipline, that's our ability to control or redirect our disruptive emotions and adapt in a changing environment. Social skill, this is about having good communication skills and managing relationships to move people in a desired direction. Empathy, sometimes the hardest one, taking other people's thoughts and feelings into account, especially when making decisions. Motivation, the drive to achieve simply for the sake of achievement. Humility, always putting the needs of the team before our own. And passion, having a deep belief in the mission and the team that drives that mission forward. And these emotional competencies are not innate talents, but rather learned capabilities that have to be worked on and developed over time to achieve higher levels of performance and drive a team towards the execution of a specific mission. Leadership in any high-performance team exists at all levels. As we know, it's not just about the people at the very top, but rather the innate ability of every single member on the team to take on roles and responsibilities outside of their own job descriptions to help the team accomplish the mission. It's about translating individual performance into team accomplishment, being proactive, being collaborative, bringing solutions to the table, and challenging the system, the team, and oneself at all times. And when it comes to leadership, over the years I've learned quite a few things, mostly through costly mistakes and failures, of course. But one is that there's a distinct difference between the discipline of management and the discipline of leadership. Management is about coping with complexity, managing people and tasks, whereas leadership is about coping with change and aligning a team towards the execution of that specific vision. And both disciplines are very important. They can be harnessed within one individual. They both require constant personal and professional development, regular transparent feedback from our teams, which can be humbling at times, self-reflection, and taking action on that feedback received. So we're doing a good job surrounding ourselves with great peers, subject matter experts, and trusted advisors. We should probably listen to each other every now and then, shouldn't we? And over the years, whether it's leading teams in combat or at a growing digital marketing agency, very similar, except I'm surrounded by millennials all frickin' day. I'm going to be started on that. That's a whole other keynote speech. I boiled it down to 5 principles that I think are imperative for being part of and or being a leader within a high-performance team. First, we have to create and always work on building a culture of leadership. That, of course, like anything else, starts at the top. Senior leaders leading by example. Then it bleeds down throughout the entire organization. Then we have to identify those other emergent leaders within the organization, put them in the right roles, give them the tools and resources to be successful, thereby creating a solid foundation and framework for decision-making and execution at all levels within the organization. You also have to make the team feel safe. A great general once said, "You cannot manage people into combat. They must be led." Sometimes our team members need more leadership than they do management. I know it's hard to imagine anybody feeling safe in a combat environment. But when the team trusts one another, they have that shared sense of purpose, they trust the leaders to make good decisions. Sometimes just any decision at all will do, especially when the shit's really hitting the fan. It actually creates an overwhelming sense of safety and security. If we can do a good job making our fellow team members safe and secure, staying calm under pressure, communicate effectively, providing resources, and removing obstacles, then we're moving in the right direction. We also have to be able to manage through chaos. Chaos in combat is inevitable. In a business environment, I like to refer to this chaos as adaptive change. All organizations, as you guys know, large and small, go through periods of adaptive change. It could be due to transformations, mergers, acquisitions, changes in economic cycles, competition, technology. No matter what it is, sometimes change can be scary for the team. And it's up to all of us, leaders and team members, to help everybody understand what that change is all about, why it's important, what the positive outcomes of that change are going to be, and even more importantly, what is everybody's role in affecting that change? And what is that change going to mean for everybody on the team moving forward? And if we can do that clearly, concisely, and consistently, people stay calm and focused on their objectives. We also have to embrace the philosophy of servant leadership, or at least that's my belief. In my various leadership studies, I read another book by Stephen Pressfield. It's a historical fiction called The Afghan Campaign, about Alexander the Great's push through Afghanistan in 330 BC. Despite his insufferable arrogance and ambition, Alexander was actually the epitome of a servant leader, literally leading tens of thousands of men into the battle from the very front. And I heard some of that earlier tonight. You've got a problem? Call me at 3 o'clock in the morning and we'll solve it. Servant leadership is a seemingly simple, but sometimes difficult philosophy of leadership to execute, but it really boils down to not asking our team members to do something we are not willing to do ourselves. And quite similarly, always eat last. In the military, it's tradition that senior leaders and officers eat last after all the other team members have eaten. And of course, I'm using this as an analogy. But when we sacrifice for our team members, they will in fact sacrifice for us and do everything in their power to execute the mission and vision of the organization. Yes, that is a dog attached to my body as I jump out of the back of that plane. You know what he's thinking right now? Man's best friend, my axe. We actually used to jump all kinds of things. Attack dogs. We'd tether ourselves to 700-pound containers full of gear. It's like an exercise in suicide, especially when the gear is above you somehow. IT guys, strap them in tandem style. Anybody tandem skydiving in here? Trap the IT guys in tandem style. Standing on the back of the ramp. Of course, we always had to mess with them. Like, oh, bro, these carabiners are cracked. This harness is not going to hold. Here we go, straight the whole way down. It's pretty cruel, I guess. But necessary. Quite necessary. I didn't tell this story earlier, but when my class was going through Hell Week, our class leader, the highest ranking officer in our class, actually passed away. We won't get into the details of it. But the lieutenant commander in charge of SEAL training at the time, amongst some of the comments that he made that night, was to instill in us the critical importance of trust, no matter what happened in our careers as SEALs, trust amongst the team. And from that day forward, I learned over and over and over again the importance of trust for any high-performance team in any environment to be successful. Because without trust, all the other elements that lead to success eventually erode away completely. This applies to a small business. It applies to a publicly traded global corporation. And studies actually show that productivity, income, and profits are directly correlated, negatively or positively, to the levels of trust within the organization. Let's take a look at the elements of trust. There are 4 pillars of trust that I believe organizations and their leaders need to keep in mind when continuing to build and improve trust within their teams. Able, simply demonstrating competence. Trust within the team starts with us showing that we can get our jobs done and being competent in all our interactions and dealings with other team members. Believable, acting in a consistent, values-driven manner that shows our peers we have their best interests in mind and that they can then in turn their fellow peers and leaders. Connected, showing care and compassion for people at all levels. And that goes back to having good emotional intelligence and communication skills. And dependable, saying what we're going to do and doing what we say we will. Nothing damages trust more than dishonesty or unkept promises. When trust is low in an organization, it actually decreases speed and increases costs. Because low trust leads to lower morale, lower productivity, lower collective action, and increased turnover. Now the good news is, high trust organizations, like this one, operate on a dividend. It's like a performance multiplier that actually decreases costs and increases speed. And the good news is, trust-building behavior and building trust within any relationship or team environment can be quite simple. It's just about having a plan and taking action. And finally, high-performance teams, great team members and leaders, know that their training is never complete, always pursuing excellence, innovation, striving to set and achieve even loftier goals. Earlier I mentioned that it takes 18 months to become a SEAL. Then you go to a SEAL platoon, and you do 2-year platoon cycles. That includes another 18 months of even harder training, and then a 6-month deployment. And when you're on deployment, if you're not eating, sleeping, or operating, you're training. You're rehearsing that night's mission. You're on the shooting range. You're practicing close quarters combat skills. You're in the gym. You're running. Whatever you can do to improve yourself individually and as a member of your team. And many of you may not know this, but when SEAL Team 6 was tasked with a mission to capture or kill Osama bin Laden, first they went to SEAL Team 6 and handpicked all of the most seasoned warriors from each squadron, creating basically a dream team, so the best of the best. And then they flew these guys to a secret location in North Carolina where they rehearsed day and night on a true-scale replica model of Osama bin Laden's compound. This mission was no different than the raids we'd done hundreds, if not thousands of times before. The stakes were a little bit higher this time. They practiced every possible contingency they could think of, including a helicopter crash. What was the first damn thing that happened when they got over that target? A freaking helo goes down. Happens every time. It's like Murphy's Law. That's why one of my favorite quotes is, "No plan survives first contact with the enemy." In closing, I'd like to read you guys a poem. Yeah, poem. SEALs can read poems too. Before I do that, I wanted to, because it's relevant to these closing remarks, yesterday when I was sitting on the plane on the tarmac in San Diego, wait for it, I got one of those text messages that you never want to get. The kind of text messages that are oddly prevalent, unfortunately, in the SEAL community. It said, "Team guy, KIA, in Iraq." And of course, the text messages then started flying. It was finding out the names. So we lost one of our own yesterday. So one quick moment of silence for Charlie Keaton. Thank you. There's a Navy SEAL movie called Act of Valor. It is not based on a true story. But in this movie, towards the end, the SEAL platoon commander writes his baby son a letter before leaving on deployment to go off to war. That's one of those letters that's only to be opened and read in the instance that he's killed and does not return home from combat. This poem is part of that letter as a bit of inspiration and advice to his son's life. Later in the movie, they're in a horrific gun battle, and a grenade is thrown into the room that his platoon is clearing. Without hesitation, that platoon commander jumps on that grenade, sacrificing himself for his team. I have a buddy who did the same thing, Michael Mansour, bottom center. They were on the second floor of a building in Ramadi, Iraq, when all of a sudden a grenade came in through the window, thrown by an enemy fighter from outside. The grenade hit the floor, rolled to his feet. He had teammates on his left, teammates on his right, and a big empty stairwell right behind him. He could have easily jumped backwards down that stairwell, saving his own life, but instead he instinctively jumped forward onto that grenade, sacrificing himself for his team. This poem is called Death Song. So live your life so that the fear of death may never enter your heart. Trouble no one about their religion, respect others and their views, and demand that they respect yours. Love your life, perfect your life. Beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long and of service to your people. Prepare a noble death song for the day that you go over the great divide. Show respect to all people and grovel to none. When you arise in the morning, give thanks for your life, for the light in your strength. And if you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies within yourself. When your time comes to die, be not like those whose hearts are filled with the fear of death, so that they weep and pray for a little more time to live their lives over again in a different way. Sing your death song and die like a hero going home. Now, very clearly, I've not yet had the opportunity to sing my death song like so many of my fallen brothers. But if you didn't notice, that poem is not about death. It's about life. Living our lives to the fullest extent, creating and seizing every opportunity we have to be better. Not just better for ourselves, better for our teams, our families, better in the lives of those around us, and hopefully making this world a little bit better place than we found it. So ladies and gentlemen, when you guys are out there doing your thing, setting and achieving lofty goals, pursuing excellence and innovation, and achieving maximum performance, I ask that you remember these three things. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Push yourself outside your comfort zone every chance you get to learn more, achieve more, identify problems, develop solutions, and then violently execute those solutions together as a team. When you do push yourself outside your comfort zone every chance you get, the wider that area becomes. Life is short, as you know, and there is no time or place for mediocrity or moderation amongst the elite. Next, remember that the only easy day was yesterday, Cecile saying, especially for those pursuing a life of excellence. Life is full of obstacles. We have to face those obstacles head on, controlling what we can and ignoring what we can't. Lastly, my friends, I ask that you be all in all the time. Never give less than 110% to anything you commit to. Ask yourself every day, at what level am I willing to participate on this team and in this life? No matter what obstacles or challenges life throws at you, whether they be here at work, at home, your spouse, kids, divorce, illness, finances, no matter what it is, not if, but when you get knocked down, get back up every time and never ever be out of the fight. God bless you guys. It's been amazing.